Welcome to Everyday Superhero. My name is Robert Monroe, creator and producer of Spiderman basketball. This is my good friend, Grayson Boucher, better known as the Professor. How's it going, man?
It's going great, man.
Awesome. So this is a series of videos that we're going to be doing, kind of like reacting, giving you guys a background on the Spider-Man basketball series. We've now completed 9 of these episodes, including also some episodes that were in between, like 0.5s and a couple little trailers that we did. But we're only going to be reacting to the main episodes. We already did part 1. This is part 2. We're all the way up till 9, and we're actually in the middle of filming part 10 right now.
Yes, sir.
So, Greg, give a kind of like a background on what episode 2 was about and kind of how we got from point A to point B, especially with part 1. Very different from part 1 to part 2. So
Totally different. Like with part 1 starting out as purely a prank, we were trying to come up with sort of a concept or a premise to roll with to get to keep people interested, basically. You know what I mean? Because we felt like, and this was mainly your idea, we felt like if we kept going out as Spider-Man, that it would get a little old after a while, right?
Dry,
I mean, because it'd be the same thing. It's like what could I do? Change the costume to change it up, and so you came up with, hey, let's make it a series. And I think what was so cool is like just organically we bounced around ideas and just came together to do a half reality, half scripted thing, which we didn't even realize how innovative that actually was, right?
It had never been done before, really.
The basketball is 100% authentic and real and organic.
By the way, let's pause for a second
Yeah.
and say that for sure. The basketball is real because I think
Yeah.
that there's some people that were under the impression after part 1, because you could tell part 1 was real. It was more like a prank. But I think people were under the impression after part 1 because they were like episodic and they had like the comic book intros and it looked more like a series that the basketball was now scripted. But all of the basketball has always been real. From the very first episode to the other ones. So I just kind of make that clear. I think that some people were confused, even with that, like, I think there was like a thing in the front that said all the basketball is real, but I don't know if everybody
Disclaimer?
reads. Yeah, disclaimer. I don't know if everybody reads it, but
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't want it either way. Like, for me, competing is the funnest part, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you go there and it's competing, but that's the beauty of it. I think most people knew it was real, but I think that you're right. There was probably a good amount of people that were like, hey, is this fake? Like, so many moves getting pulled off. We got titles and thought bubbles and all this other stuff. So
exactly. Yeah.
anyway, this idea just sort of organically came together, and it was like, why not do a half reality, half scripted series, but then mimic the comic book story themes, and that's where you're a comic book history.
I had read comics from when I was a kid. Like, big for me was more or less like Batman, Superman, and then Spider-Man was like my Marvel thing, along with like Hulk and, Fantastic Four and a couple of other ones. But like that was always my thing as a kid. So it was really cool, like creatively for myself, to be able to make something that looked like a live action comic book, especially because we did like those transitions of like, looked like it was a book and then it moves from the other side and like, actually having a storyline as compared to just going out and playing, you know what I mean? And I think that was kind of the premise behind it was, let's not just do this every single time, but let's make a story behind it so people will not only be interested in what you're doing in the basketball, but also you got to act in it. You got to like kind of creatively express yourself in different ways that you hadn't before. So it was kind of and it was cool for me because I got to be behind the camera directing and doing all that stuff.
So much more powerful if it's like the story drives it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So if you want to go ahead and start the video. Yeah.
Let's do it. The disclaimer, needed it. Nothing been rehearsed. I like this intro too. I mean,
if you look at the corner of that, like pause it. I don't know if you can see it.
The apple, the apple plug.
Yeah, because that was I think the first one. I don't know whether it was done on iMovie or something like that, but that first intro was like the upper corner. Just let's not tell Apple about that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was this iMovie.
I think it was.
I think the very first one. Remember, we tried a few different editors and they didn't do it right.
Yeah.
And then we rolled.
Man.
I think I ended up doing this firsthand. I said, screw it, I'll take it in my own hands. Oh, that's right. We were on the phone while I was in the Philippines, remember? Talking about how the rough drafts came out, and I was like, Rob, we can't roll with this. I said, you know what? let me just.
I sent you a rough draft. I don't even know why I sent it to you. It wasn't me that edited it.
No.
But by the way, I'm not really an editor, so to speak. I'm more like the producer and shooter. So for me, when I saw that rough draft that I had like kind of outsourced to somebody else, I was like, I don't even want to send him this. Like,
Yeah.
and then when you got it,
I sent you like 45 edits. Like I sent him a bullet point sheet.
Yeah.
And then I was like, bro, you know what? Let me just give a crack at it. And naturally it just worked. But I remember we had problems exporting this, and we had to take it to Alberto. Shout out to Alberto Entertainment.
man.
We had to take it to Alberto to export and compress. It was a mess. But back, we're talking about 5 years ago now.
Well, just so everybody
didn't
knows, too,
know.
the most amazing thing that maybe you guys don't know is this guy edits all of them. So we have like a vision that we sit down, we storyboard, we do all the stuff that we do ahead of time, write the script, and then he actually, once everything is done, like he actually edits everything. So he's not just out there playing, which is one of the most amazing things I think about this series is that both of us have been able to come together creatively and use our talents to like, put a whole thing together. Because I'll be honest with you, these edits, I probably would lose my mind trying to do all this stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Praise
you
God
did
it's
it.
worked out. Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of them were frustrating, man. I mean, you're talking about so many different sources of audio.
Yeah.
The clips were all over the place. We had like 8 different hard drives sometime. I'm like, where is this stuff? Remember,
we've lost our hard drives.
We lost a couple scenes. Like, we go shoot a whole scene and lose it.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. There's been some nightmares, but it's been great in bringing it together. We learned a lot about production and just directing and everything.
Totally. Because this one was was uploaded on August 27th.
Yeah, so we were talking about the first one was like June, and then we didn't actually remember we didn't get to this for a while.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a couple months later,
Yeah.
and it took us a while to turn around the edit.
Yeah. And more or less, it was like we were kind of trying to figure out what we were going to do. Because it was such an unexpected thing for part 1 to do the numbers that it did.
Right.
So I was like, what are we going to do with it now? Like, we're going to make more or, So, but I'm so happy we ended up going this route and actually doing them like a series.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it.
So what's cool about this thing is this newsstand is actually kind of by where me and you live.
Yes. The takeaway we didn't realize is I get these things, right? Talk about the meteor shower. And then we don't even pay for the stuff.
It's all in the
I can't
comments,
even tell
too.
you how many comments said they didn't even pay for the candy bar in the newspaper.
Yep.
So funny.
Like, Peter Parker just stole. What's wrong with him?
It's unbelievable how much we got trolled for that.
Yeah. What is so crazy about this, and I'll pause it really quick to kind of tell the backstory to that, is that newsstand, we were trying to find somewhere to shoot a particular scene like that with you walking in, getting something, whether that be a liquor store or like a 7-Eleven or something like that. And we found this newsstand that was in Santa Clarita, and that particular newsstand allowed us to shoot in there. Like, we didn't have prior, like, permits or anything. We just walked in and said, hey, do you mind if we shoot something in here?
During business hours.
During
that was
business
the craziest
hours.
part. And they were like super cool.
Yeah.
Didn't even know anything about our YouTube, about me, nothing.
And I had this big camera with a rig. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was walking around with an iPhone, So we were able to actually shoot. And the kid that was in there wasn't an actor at all. He actually worked there. And we're like, can you say these lines? So it all kind of worked out, and it was funny because the kid that was in there actually ended up being related to somebody that I had worked with in the past, just by chance. But I thought that was so funny that kid ended up being in the episode, but he was actually a worker that was behind the counter.
He was on a shift.
He was on a shift, yeah.
I didn't understand how the boss let him do that.
Well, I remember he got on the
lenient.
phone and like he kind of went away from us for a second and got on the phone, and I think he was asking like, "Hey, do you mind if if they film in here?" It was meant to be.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest.
Had to
Because why would somebody at a business like that just be like, yeah, go ahead and film whatever you want in here. We have customers coming in and out. And there was a couple of scenes and takes where there was customers in the background where that one didn't have it, but there was other times when people had come in and come out. So
plus it was in LA County. It's crazy. It definitely was meant to be.
yeah, California, man.
Yeah.
Shout out.
All right. Custom-made newspaper.
This was so funny. Because we bought the newspaper, and then you printed that out. You typed that up.
Yeah.
and then put it over it, right? You like glued it onto
Yep.
the top of it. So, dude, that jump cut was crazy. Did you see how fast it like you realize stuff later. That's my voice.
So like 3 out of those 5 were me. Couple were Rob.
A friend of ours, Cameron Major, was
Yep.
one of them.
And then this is before we did Spider-Man webbing through the city. He hadn't got his webs yet. So it was just straight walk up.
It's interesting, like watching these older episodes, seeing how we decided to do certain
Oh, I forgot.
things,
You still went ahead of me for this one.
Yep.
Like you act like you were organically there.
Yeah, it's kind of like episode 1. Yeah, you can hear me in the background. On a couple of these reacting.
The funny thing is, I don't even remember how we struck up this game. But these people were super about
They
it.
came up to you, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. This was a separate court, because I think that like everybody looked at you when you walked up. Because at this point, because of part 1 being so popular, I think that the majority of people knew like what this was.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
that's true.
that you were actually going to come up and play basketball, and you were the same guy that was on YouTube, and so these guys actually were okay playing against you to start with, if I remember correctly. It's been so long.
Right.
Yeah. I always love that move. I don't know what it is. Like the
That was
roll
one of my
off the head.
favorite. The roll off, yeah. Steph. That cracked me up.
It's like, yeah, Steph Curry's
Yeah.
just coming out and
Yeah, so Steph Curry actually took a break from the Warriors to go to Santa Clarita to play at Central Park versus these. Yeah, never mind.
yeah, dressed up in a Halloween Spider-Man costume. Because at this point, this is still that same old suit. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Still the same suit from part 1.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I don't even know if people notice. You can see it right during this take right here. Is that remember the foot piece ripped off and it was
Yeah.
like hanging off my shoe.
Yeah, because remember, these shoes are actually basketball shoes with a cover that's over them. So they're not like, regular Spider-Man shoes, quote unquote.
Right. I remember being so irritated they're ripped. I thought it was going to be a big deal, and then like nobody noticed it.
Nah.
Yeah, but if you look at the scene, like you can see it hanging.
Didn't you say that like you met this guy afterwards, or you saw him somewhere, or was it somebody else that was in one of these videos?
I may have. I'm not sure. This was funny enough. This was a similar situation though. We were there for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was quick. This next move that's coming up, man, was like literally my favorite move ever.
Oh,
And
it
and
was an
probably
accident?
all of and probably all of them we've
look.
ever done.
Me too.
Whoop!
It worked out. What's funny about that is, we'll bring it back. What's funny about that is, so I fumbled it, right? And then remember I was telling you, or I don't know if I said in part 1 video, but I don't have any peripherals. The Spider-Man eyes, especially on this cheaper suit, they were like this, so you really can't see here and you can't see here. So I realized that it hit my leg. It didn't go between the legs like I wanted.
Yeah.
So basically what I did, I wasn't pausing, waiting for go for the bait. I was really like looking for the basketball.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw it, he just happened to be trying to dive on it, and boom, snatched it away.
Yeah. But it totally looked like it was planned. To be completely honest with you, I thought it was when I was filming.
Gotcha.
I didn't know that it wasn't. You know
Gotcha.
what I mean? So, and yeah, that's again. If you guys didn't watch the reaction to the very first one, when we were talking about how difficult it is to play in this suit, when I played as Deadpool, I realized it. But it's just your hands are so slick because it's spandex that you're playing in.
Mm-hmm.
It's suffocating because your whole body is like it's not able to breathe.
Can't breathe.
You can't breathe out of your mouth, and then you don't have the vision that you want to have. So
No
you're
peripherals, and they can't feel the basketball. That was the part that irritates me the most. Probably is you can't, the hands. You got gloves on, spandex gloves on.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't like. There's so much that goes behind it, but that alone is just that makes these videos even more amazing because you're in a suit, Probably playing at 40% maybe.
I mean, trying at 100%, but yeah, like
Yeah.
40% as good as that could be without it. I like this one. It's funny.
I like how before that you had come up to the camera and said something.
Watch this. I like because the dude was super serious. He was bummed out. Actually, this is probably my favorite move on this one.
I've seen
This
that
is my favorite combo.
that clip in general. I've seen so many different places. Instagram,
That
YouTube.
actually, yeah. Take that back. Hold up. This was definitely the most viral Not this one right here. The next one was the most viral.
What happened when you were trying? You're trying to grab the back of his hat?
I tried to take his hat off and put it on.
Oh,
You know
gotcha.
what I mean? Because especially like Spider-Man's already funny, but you take somebody's hat and put it on, it's like starts to be the funniest thing. And right there it was funny.
Everybody in the background's just cracking up.
I was trying to move. I was trying to do like spider-like movements.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
with this.
yeah.
Funny enough, we could go into a whole nother story about this, but like a lot of the quick twitch moves that I made trying to be like Spider-Man, I actually incorporated in my regular game because the crowd just liked the way that looks.
Yeah.
Funny enough, and that was the very first time I even tried it.
And what's crazy about that for me is like if I imagined Spider-Man playing basketball, he would do that. You know what I mean? You would imagine that would be the way that he would move. You know what I mean? And so you being Spider-Man, it just works out perfectly because same size, same everything, like the build of Spider-Man. It's like, you are Spider-Man. You know what I mean?
Funny. Yeah.
How do you feel about that too? Like, like after they're all taking pictures, like that must be like so strange for you, like being known as, like you obviously had to have grown up watching Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, and regardless of whether you saw the comics or not, everybody knew who Spider-Man was. You've seen the movies. Mm-hmm. Like, isn't that so like, that's got to be strange for you for people to like know you as Spider-Man now.
Definitely a trip. What's funny is like I never thought like in doing this. Obviously, part one was a prank.
Yeah.
And we turned to a series. I never thought the public would accept it so willingly to the point where like now we go to the court. People be shocked, right?
Yeah.
We go to the court now. And people, literally are like, "What's up, Spider-Man? Respect."
Yeah.
Just like they, like they talk to him on the movie, like literally, like they'll be like, "Yo, that episode 9, man, Spider-Man, that was crazy, bro. You killed the court, you saved the court." I'm like they're taking it in stride, like it's a real entity, and it's like.
And we're talking about different countries. Me and you have been to Australia and other places where, I mean, obviously. You've been all over the world, but even the places that I've been, people know what Spider-Man basketball is, and it just blows my mind.
Yeah, off top. I mean, literally, I played in over 40 countries, but like every country I went to ever since we started doing series, there was. I don't feel like there's a place we could step on Earth where somebody didn't know about this series. That's a trip.
Yeah, it's a trip. That's my Camaro right there.
Yeah, this is Rob's Camaro right here.
The Meteor almost hit.
Shout out to the Camaro. The Meteor, by the way, was edited by a high school friend of mine who actually, I think he works for Microsoft right now. He actually does commercials for is it Xbox or Microsoft? One of the two. But anyway, he's a beast though with these. I
remember when I first saw it, I was like, "Yo, that's amazing."
This was lightweight for him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like he's making commercials for Microsoft, so this was whatever. But it worked out really well.
This was actually filmed at. That's my mom. My mom's a teacher, and so is my sister, and that's the school that they actually worked at that time. So that's why we filmed in this area.
We felt
so we blew up their school.
We were gonna blow up a building. It might have been will be. And then we put this little tidbit right here. That extra practice paid off. Trying to refer to like it was the night before. And the accident actually was right there. A lot of people don't know is we actually showed my face.
Yeah.
Earlier than we want to because we were trying to go no face the whole episode, and I didn't even realize till actually editing it. I was like, oh well.
Yeah, and you have to look really close. But we were trying to make it so. And here I come.
Oh, this is so funny.
So, hold on, pause it, because there's a whole... Come on, man. So there's a whole story behind this. Like, so this is the first time I've ever done anything as far as, like, acting, period, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm a real, like, calm-mannered guy. Like, I don't get excited very often. Like, I don't get angry. And so we shot that particular scene, I don't know how many times, of me knocking you over to get to the point where I sounded angry. Because I would, like, either stutter or not say it correctly. And I just kind of didn't sound like I was mad. And it just never came out authentic. And it took like... God bless you, man, for falling down that many times because I literally knocked you down like 20 times.
It was plus 20 takes.
Yeah, it had to have been.
But, sometimes like that. I mean, people underestimate acting, you know what I mean?
Yeah. My sister was behind, by the way, she does photography, but she was doing, she was behind the camera right now. Yeah. That was her filming. So.
Yeah, shout out to Michelle, Four Corner Photography.
Sheesh. I love the word sheesh.
I felt that was very Peter Parker-esque,
totally.
Right? Like he doesn't curse or get too upset.
Yeah. And what's really funny about that too is like we didn't even plan on me being Deadpool at that point.
Right.
So that scene actually gets played again in part 6.
And it just worked. We didn't pre-plan that.
We never planned that.
We got 3 or 4 characters that are in other episodes that we flash back to, and it was never pre-planned. It just worked out perfect.
That's the way it worked. Yeah.
This was a trip right here because when we showed where the meteor had went, we showed the ball and we flashed back to it, like smoke was coming off of it.
Mm-hmm. We didn't do that.
But we didn't do that. It was just, I don't know, there was just like residue in the little alley.
And I think it had to do also with, there was like an air conditioner. That's why it was like kind of dripping. See where it was dripping? So like it created that smoke or.
Right. Oh, you got to talk to him about this.
Oh, man. Okay, so we were trying to figure out like what was the best way to like create the symbiote, right? Because if you guys know the comic books, the way that it works is the symbiote attaches itself to different characters, whether that be Venom or Spider-Man, and it changes and it enhances like their DNA to the point where they're either stronger, their senses are heightened, different things. So I knew what it looked like, but I couldn't figure out like how are we gonna make this stuff? Yeah. Like, are we going to like CGI it? We're like, dude, we can't do that. Like that's at that point we were in part 2. We're like, we didn't have the ability to be able to like have somebody CGI that.
Right.
And I was like, do we use, mud? Do we use? So at the end of it, ended up being cake batter.
Was it cake batter? Yeah.
Dye, food dye, and I believe it was clothing dye as well. Mm-hmm. And so all of that stuff mixed together made that gunk that ended up working.
Worked well. I was bummed I had to shed this hoodie too.
It's funny because there was a couple of people in the comments who were like, dude, you guys ruined the hoodie.
Right.
Completely destroyed the hoodie. I was like, man, what
$15 at H&M.
Yeah.
It wasn't too big of an asset. But.
So what we would do is like, we would put some, we would cut it, we would put more, we'd cut it. And it was amazing because like we were still trying to keep it to the point where we couldn't see her face. So it was just, I don't know how we did that where you never really saw it.
And then this.
The black Spider-Man suit. The symbiote Spider-Man. So with that, why I wanted to kind of do that was like, number one, give you a different suit than you had before. Because like, I want to try to keep it fresh. Because now we've seen you twice in that suit. We saw you in part 1 in that suit. And now we've seen you in part 2 in that suit. So I was trying to pull from Spider-Man lore as much as I possibly could because, again, like I know the comic book like crazy. So I was like, okay, what's something that we can put in there that would resonate, but we could also give you a new suit? And it would be the symbiote Spider-Man. So in part 3 is where you end up wearing that particular suit, but we wanted to kind of introduce it at the end of this one to give you an idea that there was going to be one that was coming. Because I don't think at this point, because it was episodic, it was an episode, I don't know if anybody knew that we were going to keep on doing them. You know what I mean? So we wanted to like leave a cliffhanger at the end.
Cliffhanger every time.
So it's like, okay, we're showing that there's going to be something else afterwards, and didn't want to like leave it up to them to decide whether that was the last one or not. So, with part 2, like, what was for you? What was like the main difference? Like when you were going into obviously part 1 it being a prank, but part 2 now it's an episode. So how did you feel about like completing the project, or like even when this came out, how did you feel like when you were done? Like, oh man, Did this work? Or
I loved it. I thought it was a home run. And honestly, after I saw the momentum from part 1 or episode 1 and a bunch of people asking for a part 2, I was excited about it. And I felt like we kind of knew the basketball was still the main draw.
Of course.
So the fact I think we got better highlights. Like I think every episode is a little better, but I think there was better highlights here. So I was pretty confident with this one.
Yeah.
But when I say confident, I just mean like over 1 million. I mean, today, what do we
almost at 11 million?
Almost 11 million now.
Yeah, it's amazing, man.
And it was slow, gradual growth over the last 5. I mean, because I remember at one point this was like 3 million. I was thrilled, and then it was 8, and I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely one of those things for me. Like when we made it, I think it was more of a risk for me because I was so like adamant about feeling we needed to do episodes. So for me, I was like, oh man, if this doesn't work, you know what I mean? Like maybe we should have just done the basketball thing. But going back and seeing how people really love it, and we even talk, I've had DMs and messages from people where they're like, my kid loves Spider-Man basketball. Like I put it on for him and he watches all the episodes, like young kids, you know what I mean? A couple of people have even said my kid only started playing basketball, wanted to play basketball because of Spider-Man basketball, which is like, it just blows my mind. You know
that tripped me out. Yeah, a whole bunch of people hit me up talking about they started playing the game because like Spider-Man basketball inspired them, or they had used to like street ball and kind of like set the ball down, but then like got back into it based off this series.
Yeah,
or something like that. Remember that one dude? One dude even had the arm tattoo.
Oh man. That was crazy. Yeah, when we found out like he had gotten the tattoo of the Spider-Man, like it was the ball like connected to like the spider web. And
Yeah,
it was
a dude webbing, like Spider-Man hand webbing out to the basketball.
I was like
tagged me on Instagram. I remember reposting it, sent it to Rob, and he's like, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah. So it was interesting to see how.
Shout out to that dude for the support.
Yeah, totally major support. Yeah, so it was very interesting to say the least to see like how part 2 went and how people like actually like the idea that it was going to be a series and not just a one-off, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but if you guys are watching, we're definitely going to be continuing to do these all the way up until part 9. We've made 9 of these, and leading up to part 10, because we're actually working on part 10 right now, which is the script and everything for it. To me is amazing. Like I can't wait. I can't wait to start.
Best. I say it every time.
We say that every time.
Funniest and best.
Yeah. So we're really excited. We're going to be using a couple of people that you guys will probably notice from other things. That's going to be in part 10, and just reacting to these as they come on. So you guys subscribe, top, bottom. I don't know where the subscribe button is. Where it's at. So
card.
Yes. So subscribe, you guys. We're going to be making more of these and more reactions to behind the scenes stuff, and kind of giving you guys like an insight of everything we've been through from the very first one to the one that we're making now. So take care, you guys. We appreciate you here. We'll see you guys soon.